In the heart of the 15th century, the Valley of Mexico lived in a state of absolute, unyielding cosmic terror. To the Aztec mind, the universe was not a machine that worked on its own, it was a dying god. They believed we were living in the age of the fifth sun, a sun that was a warrior, fighting an eternal, exhausting war against the stars every single night. And every morning, that warrior rose pale and thirsty. He demanded a payment that only one substance on earth could provide, chalchihuatl, the precious water, human blood. This wasn't a choice for the Aztecs. It wasn't cruelty for the sake of cruelty. It was a debt, a cosmic mortgage that had to be paid every single dawn, or the sun would lose its strength, the world would freeze, and time itself would die. But by the year 1450, that debt was coming due in a way that would push their theology to its most terrifying limit. In the year 1450, the gods went silent. A series of catastrophic frosts and droughts struck the valley. For 5 consecutive years, the corn withered in the black dirt. The great famine turned the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan into a city of ghosts. Mothers sold their children for a handful of grain. The people looked at the sky and saw a sun that was turning white, losing its fire. The high priests delivered a verdict that sent a shiver through the empire. The sun is starving because we have stopped feeding him. Traditional war, fighting for land, for gold, or for slaves, was no longer sufficient. The gods didn't want territory, they wanted souls. They needed a harvest of blood that was constant, ritualized, and eternal. They needed a war that would never end. Enter the Xochitl, the Flower Wars. It was a theological and tactical masterstroke. The Triple Alliance met with their neighbors, the Tlaxcalans, and made a secret, sacred pact. They agreed to fight artificial wars. These were not battles of conquest. No borders would move, no kings would be toppled. Instead, they turned the battlefield into a sacred farm where warriors were harvested like flowers from a field. The rules were strict. No long-range weapons, no bows and arrows that killed from a distance, no killing on the field if it could be helped. The goal was to capture the enemy alive. By agreeing to fight their neighbors indefinitely, the Aztecs created a perpetual motion machine of sacrifice. It was the ultimate theology of war, a conflict designed not to end a dispute, but to sustain the universe itself. To be a warrior in the Flower Wars was to be a liturgical performer. They wore the skins of jaguars and the feathers of eagles, not for camouflage, but to channel the divine. When the two armies met in the misty clearings of the jungle, it was a terrifying dance of grappling and blunt clubs. A warrior's status was measured by how many men he could tie up and drag back to the pyramid. To kill your opponent on the field was seen as a tragic waste, a lost offering. In the mind of the Aztec warrior, the enemy was not a foe to be hated. He was a blessed brother. He was the messenger who would carry the empire's prayers to the sun. This was a war of mutual respect, fueled by absolute bone-chilling horror. They fought with tears in their eyes, believing that every blow they struck was keeping the stars from falling. The journey ended at the Templo Mayor, the Great Pyramid. For the captive, the walk up those steep, blood-stained stone steps was the final transition from man to God. They were draped in jewels and fed the finest foods. They were treated as living incarnations of the gods themselves. But at the summit, the debt of the sun had to be paid. As the obsidian blade, sharp as a razor and black as the night, did its work, the priest would hold the beating heart toward the sky. They believed the steam rising from the warm blood was the literal fuel the sun required to move across the horizon. In those few minutes of ritualized silence, the entire empire held its breath, waiting to see if the sun would accept the payment and grant them one more day of life. But the loop of faith was about to be shattered by a force they could not comprehend. In 1519, the Spanish arrived. The conquistadors saw a massacre. The Aztecs saw a holy duty. This theological collision was the true end of the world. The Aztecs fought to capture the Spaniards for sacrifice, sticking to the rules of the flower wars. But the Spanish fought to kill. They fought for conquest, for gold, and for a different god. The debt of the sun was finally canceled, not by the gods, but by the arrival of iron, gunpowder, and a new cross. The Aztec sun set for the last time, and the flower wars became a ghost story buried under the streets of modern Mexico City. The temples are silent now. The jungle has reclaimed the stone. But every morning, without fail, the sun still rises over the valley. Perhaps the debt was truly paid in full, or perhaps we are just living in a brief moment of silence before the next great famine. The theology of war never ends. It only changes its face. We still sacrifice our time, our blood, and our sons to the things we believe keep our world alive. Subscribe to UNSEAL the next archive. The past is never dead. It is waiting to be remembered.